No, it's okay. Okay, top left.
You can go in
No, the green button.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, is this? Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about entrepreneurship in Detroit's workforce. During the 1950s, Detroit was titled the largest factory city in the world. The city boasted a population of 1.85 million as people throughout the United States migrated to Detroit to work in the big three auto manufacturing companies, Chrysler, Ford, and General Motors. Thomas Sugrue, an American historian of the 20th century America, reports that by the mid-20th century, 1 in every 6 working Americans was employed indirectly or directly by the automobile industry, and Detroit was at its epicenter. The big three auto firms were all based in metropolitan Detroit, as it had become a total industrial landscape, a place where hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers gathered to work along the assembly line. However, the city's great economic power disappeared quickly. According to Sugrue in his essay, Motor City, The Story of Detroit, he claims that it was at this height of prosperity that manufacturers began to restructure and the risks of the city's reliance on a single industry became apparent. The decentralization of jobs to suburbs, as well as the progression to automation, ultimately led to the city's unemployment. The global recession of 2008 also greatly impacted Detroit's unemployment and also its population. Tim Furness, a reporter at the business news publication Quartz, said that the fundamental problem of the late has been the city's depleted population, more than a quarter of its residents leaving the town between 2000 and 2012. In 2011, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that Detroit had the highest unemployment rate of 24.8% in the United States' 50 largest cities. However, in an updated April 2015 report, the Bureau reported a significant drop to 10.2%. These statistics show how a complete increase in employment, and it evoked the question of what contributed to the current climate of Detroit's workforce. This evoked my question: has the exportation of factory jobs in Detroit increased entrepreneurship in the city's workforce? In answering this question, I addressed themes which derived from Thompson's World Without Work article and also Nixon's Labor Day speech, as they both discuss how the economic downturn has led to a loss of civic competition spirit in rebirthing a city through the growth of small businesses. First of all, I think it's important to define the term entrepreneurship, which is the activity of setting up a business, taking on financial risks in the hope of profit. Firstly, increased investment into Detroit small businesses has initiated the growth of the entrepreneurship community. In an effort to revive Detroit amid its economic stagnation, the Michigan state government eliminated its 4.9% tax on businesses, lowering the barrier for entrepreneurs in the workforce. Business incubators have also played a huge role in strengthening entrepreneurship in the community. TechTown, which is a business incubator founded in 2004 by Wayne State University, initiated the Thrive Business Acceleration Program in order to install a business culture among entrepreneurs. Linda Knott, the director of the National Business Incubation Association, claimed the importance of business incubators in stimulating economic development. To quote her, she says, "They are doing things to help entrepreneurs access the help they need earlier on when they have a greater risk of failure. When they graduate from the incubator program, they have a greater chance for success." TechTown alone has introduced approximately 8,000 Michigan residents to an entrepreneurial culture. It has invested more than $700,000 directly into venture capital and helped clients raise more than $14 million, emerging as a strong economic force in downtown Detroit. However, long-term sustainability poses as a challenge to entrepreneurs. According to a U.S. Small Business Association report, approximately half of new businesses didn't survive beyond 5 years. Business incubators must support new businesses in focusing on longer-term viability. An opposing perspective compares the economy in Detroit today to the 1950s, when businesses thrived because of a strong human capital. Kevin Williamson, a political journalist at the National Review, claims that Detroit is lying on a dead capital, referring to the city's loss of opportunity for investment. In contrast to the first perspective, Williamson argues that in rebuilding Detroit, it is necessary to distance citizens from the overregulation and political favoritism that keeps capital in the hands of less able users. Secondly, competition for small businesses has increased work ethic in the workforce. One perspective on civic competition can be drawn from observing Richard Nixon's 1971 Labor Day speech. In his address to the nation, he alludes to 4 elements of productivity, one of them being high employee motivation. He says, "We welcome fair competition because it keeps us on our toes, because that alertness leads to increased productivity, because that in turn leads better life for the American working man and for his family." Nixon asserts that by expanding the workforce, and in Detroit's case, funding the startup of more small businesses, leads to a more competitive spirit among working people. Another perspective can be drawn from discussing how 2008's economic recession has incited the motive for more startups. TechTown president and CEO Ned Stabler said, "The biggest opportunity is to lower the barrier to entry. You can get up with a relatively low amount of capital to the low real estate costs in a relatively short amount of time. Giving equal access to resources allows for more competition within small businesses. According to a Kaufman Foundation report, 67% of small business owners are launching ventures because they saw the opportunity to do so, not out of necessity." Susan Salney, a correspondent for the New York Times, discusses how the recession has in fact increased their motivation to create small businesses. "It is not an uncommon instinct to start an enterprise in bad times and seize on weakened competition," she said. Despite economic downturn, work ethic is strengthened by local businesses seizing upon opportunity. However, entrepreneurs in Detroit face a unique set of obstacles that come from a city that is transforming itself on a large scale. In the article World Without Work, Derek Thompson describes a Youngstown, Ohio suffering of unemployment. He says, "Problems caused by unemployment move beyond the personal sphere. Widespread joblessness shatters neighborhoods and leeches away at their civil spirit." This emulates the economic session in Detroit, as he discusses how the grim reality of prolonged unemployment greatly affects the work ethic. John Russo, a Youngstown State professor, discusses how the youth are revitalizing the workforce through incorporating personal interest with making money. Similar to Detroit, people of Youngstown have made their peace with insecurity and poverty by building an identity through creation of small businesses. Therefore, in response to my research question, Detroit's entrepreneurship community is expanding through both the increase of employment and civic competition in the city. Given the heightened use of technology in the workforce, it's not reasonable to expect the return of an affluent American car industry, but rather the expansion of small businesses. This new identity of Detroit shows the restructuring of a workforce participating in a new economy. Having recently suffered extensive unemployment and a result of the reduction of factory-based jobs, Detroit's revitalization does have limitations in its instigation of increased entrepreneurship. However, due to the large investment to small businesses and the zestful work ethic of the people, the entrepreneurship in Detroit's community is growing. Thank you.
Taina, can you describe for me some strategies that you use to be able to find resources that address your question?
I think with such a small scope like Detroit, I found it hard to because it's this process of Detroit revitalizing its economy is a pretty new process, and so a lot of the information I found was about Detroit's history of being an amazing motor city, and so I found it hard to find details on entrepreneurship in the community. But through using EBSCO and finding and picking between sources that analyzed new businesses that were growing within the community, I was able to find a lot of new venture capitals, whether it be business incubators or programs or initiatives by the government to help form my research and pick away the evidence.
Great. And what do you see as Detroit's experience? Do you see connections between what it's going through and potentially other areas or other regions or other connections?
I think with Detroit's situation, it's a very a new city, and being in that Great Lakes region in the United States, it's hard because they were so successful during the late 1950s and 1960s. And so I think in a lot of areas, I also was researching a lot of Chicago. That was actually what I was going to investigate prior to picking Detroit. But the thing was, I chose Detroit because of its significantly higher unemployment rate. So I think Detroit's situation does mirror a lot of the situations that's going on in Chicago. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.